The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I am very late, very gyno, very not cool. Not cool at all. I apologize for that. Today, I was I spent most of the day today driving. Yeah, it's not a myth. It's not a myth. I was actually driving my son and new daughter-in-law to the airport, which is really far. JFK is really far from me. Was there headed to Israel, the Holy Land. So they were heading there for like 6 months or so for him to study abroad. And so it was a difficult day. It was an emotional day, obviously. I mentioned this because maybe driving all day makes me cranky, so I'm a little cranky today. B, I think it's important that if I'm covering stories involving Israel, you should be aware of the fact that I have a son and daughter-in-law who are going to be there, so that you can appreciate my heightened concern for civilians who are in that state. So, as I don't expect this story to go away anytime soon. Yeah. Somebody was saying, wow, why? They had planned for him to be studying there since before they got engaged. And basically it's a belief that God controls everything ultimately, and that they're not going to be motivated by or dictated by fear. They're not going to, the yeshiva that he's going to be studying in is in Jerusalem. So it's really not close to where hostilities currently are, and hopefully hostilities never develop there. But yeah, that's the story. So it's not like I have it's not like his mother or I have any real say on this. He's grown. So he's going to do what he's going to do. And that's what he thinks is the right thing to do. So I didn't even try dissuading him. I just asked them both to be safe and be careful, especially when they're out in public. Bunny's on the way. He'll be fixing a GIF. Well, yeah, I think he canceled, actually. What I saw was he canceled his, after the attack on the hospital, they canceled his trip to Israel. So I'm not sure if he's actually going there. That's what I saw, although I'm not sure if he canceled Abbas. I've been trying to catch up on the news. I want to thank one of you who the other day suggested that I subscribe to Ground News, which I took their suggestion, and because I found it just puts news from different sources in a healthy feed. See, I really do listen to you guys. And so I did that. And we have slapped that like button as if it was your significant other's Hain. That's one way of spelling it. Haney. I know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say. You can't get me to say words. Yeah, but if you could slap that like button, subscribe button too, that's a good button to hit. Boom, 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 boom. Hit them. Hit them. All right. So I've been searching on the top story today, which is Hamas's release of the first video of a hostage taken to Gaza. By the way, part of the reason I'm late, I want to just share this with you, is because I'm so determined to never accidentally share misinformation. Like, I'm very scared of ever, because there's so much, it's so easy to share misinformation. And I'm very scared of ever showing something that's actually inaccurate. And I created a whole other thumbnail, which was basically about the U.S. embassy being attacked in Lebanon. And I'm like, and I had a story from the Daily Mail, and I was ready to roll out with it, like breaking news, and because it popped like at 9:04, and I was going to be rolling it out, and when I mentioned it to Lady Logic, she like was scrutinizing it, and she's like, I don't know that this is actually what they're purporting it to be. So, and rather than be sensationalistic in a way that may be less than 100% factually accurate, I scrapped that and went with other stories that I planned on covering as my side stuff. So I want you to understand that, yeah, while I definitely have a rooting interest here, my objective is always to make sure that whatever I'm going to tell you is something that I will feel comfortable that when I'm done, that I gave you an accurate reflection of events rather than misleading anybody. So, with that, Hamas released the first video of a hostage taken to Gaza. This is CNN is reporting this. So, short video clip, and I tried finding this video clip. I was searching for it high and low. I wanted to find this thing so badly. I was like, and I think, and they say it's on Telegram, and Hamas's own Telegram, and I was like, I'm not signing up for that. I'm not signing up for that. But I'm not sure if I could show it. It seems as if this has been, from what I've seen, it seems as if they're purposefully not trying. The main MSM is trying to keep it from the public, which I can understand that. And I think that's a logical move because adding publicity to it in the form of actually showing it would just would be something that would probably give pride to the terrorists. So I can understand that decision. Anyway, that being said, we should know what's happening in the world. A short video clip shows Mia Shem lying on a bed, her right arm being bandaged by someone out of frame. A long, fresh scar is clearly visible. Shem, a 21-year-old French-Israeli woman, is being held hostage by the militant group Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The video released by Hamas on Monday is the first footage of any of dozens of people held in the enclave. Speaking into a camera, Shem, who looks pale, and by the way, the last name Shem it translates into name. It's the same name as one of Noah's sons. Speaking to the Shem in the camera, Shem, who looks pale but is sitting up straight with her head held high, says she was injured and taken to Gaza and then pleads to be returned to her family. As she speaks, loud rumbling can be heard in the background. Speaking to reporters on Tuesday in Tel Aviv, Shem's mother urged the government and world leaders to bring her daughter back home, which one would expect that to be the case, right? I mean, if anyone, God forbid, was in that mother's situation, clearly they'd be praying for their safe return and pleading with the government to do whatever is necessary to effectuate that return. Holding a picture of her daughter, Karen Sharf Shem said, I quote, I am begging the world to bring my baby back home. She only went to a festival party to have some fun, and now she's in Gaza, and she is not the only one. Sharf Shem said she did not know if her daughter was dead or alive until Monday, and that all she knew is that she might have been kidnapped. Quote, I saw she's alive. I saw that she was. I heard before rumors that she was shot in the shoulder and the leg, so I can see she was not shot in her shoulder. I see she had an operation. She looks very terrified. She looks like she's in big pain. And I can see that she says what they tell her to say, meaning it's obvious even to her mother that she's not saying what she wants to say, but that she's being directed at gunpoint to say what she's saying. That's what she told. So she's saying what they tell her to say. She told reporters urging everyone to stop this terror and bring her daughter back home along with other hostages. Shem's mother told CNN on Monday that she believed her daughter's resilience would help her survive. Quote, she's very, very strong. That's why we all believed in our hearts that she's alive, because we knew that she'll never give up. CNN cannot independently verify where and when the video of Shem was taken and what condition she is in at the moment. We're hopeful that she's in no worse condition than she was. Obviously, we're all hopeful that she's in no worse condition than she was when the video was taken. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, said in a statement that it had informed Shem's family about her kidnapping last week and are keeping in touch with them at this time. IDF spokesperson Major Libby Weiss told CNN on Tuesday that the release of the video was, quote, another way by Hamas to wage a psychological war on civilian population of Israel. CNN is not publishing the video, and nobody is. I'm telling you, I searched all over for it. And I can't find that video other than going onto Telegram. And honestly, I would feel reluctant to share the video with you for the same reason that these other news agencies are showing caution. It's one of the rare times that we see them displaying this kind of caution. And I think I think it's probably the right thing to do. Of course, it's sensationalistic to share a video like that. So we can, everyone has the morbid curiosity to see, what she look like, what she sound like, how's she holding up there, and us make our own assessments for ourselves. But I think that is rewarding terrorism. So we're waiting for you. We love you. It's still unclear how many hostages are held in Gaza. A spokesperson for Hamas military wing, the Al-Qassam Brigade, said in a video statement from Monday that the number was at least between 200 and 250. Unbelievable. The spokesperson, Abu Obeida, and the truth is they have every incentive to overstate that number. They have every incentive to overstate that number. However, I think that we can be pretty confident that they initially took into captivity no fewer than 100. But the larger that number, the reason I say that they have an incentive to inflate that number is that they, whatchamacallit, in so doing, it just creates they're hopeful that'll create a greater need for Israel to capitulate and meet them on demands for the release of hostages. But I think that if they actually had that number, I would think that they would release their names. Like, here's the names of the people that we have, or 200 names that we have. So like, because that's the sort of information that would put Israel in a position that the public can verify whether those people exist, went missing at around that time, lived in the area, had any reason to be in the area, or whether their claims are grossly exaggerated. And that way they actually would show validity to their claims. And I'm hopeful that they don't have that many. It's possible that they do. I'm speculating, and I want to be clear on this. I'm speculating that number is inflated. But even being inflated, I mean, frankly, even one hostage is it's heartbreaking. Let me get to a couple of these here. Also, an Agenda Free TV is good. Is a good YouTube channel doing coverage on the situation. Oh, thank you. Agenda Free TV. Let's see if I can find that. I'm always trying to find. I'm trying to find honest reporting. England DG. So, as a Catholic, am I able to want Israel deal with this once and for all? You know that Israel has to be thinking about that. They had. I'm sure that was something that they strongly considered. I'm sure there were discussions of, do we, as they say, glass it. They wouldn't use a nuclear weapon because the fallout would hurt their own population. I mean, you can't control for weather patterns and wind patterns that might affect people who are living around Gaza, but they could basically bomb it into obliteration or go through there, basically just machine gunning the entire place. I'm sure there were some voices. I can't say this person called for it or that senior official in the Israeli government called for it. I'm simply saying I'm sure that there's been it'd be shocking if there was not discussion along those lines. And for all the fascist Netanyahu stuff like that, it seems that plan certainly not being effectuated. I don't think that would be. I don't think that would be. I don't. it's a very tough situation. I'll give you a show for blast. Let God judge Hamas. Let Israel arrange the meeting. Yeah, and I like the way you phrase that, like let God judge Hamas. I want to distinguish between Hamas and Palestinians. Obliterating Hamas, I'm supportive of. Obliterating Hamas, I'm supportive of. I think that they need to get rid of Hamas. Obliterating the entire population, I can't sanction that. And I'm gonna be real with you all for a moment. I'm gonna be real with you for a moment. In my younger days, years ago, 20 years ago or so, I probably, if this situation had happened 20 years ago or so, my nature at that point in my life probably would have been kill them all. No more children, none of them. Just end it. Take your political hit. And they'll get a significant political hit. But the rest of the Arab world doesn't really care about that. I think that the rest of the Arab world looks at Palestinians. And I want to be clear here in case anyone's is confused. I'm definitely not saying that to you today. I don't want that to happen today. I don't want that to happen. I'm simply sharing with you the evolution of my political stance on this. But that this is going to be a fight as long as there are Palestinians living in that region. It's you'll be dealing with it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now, until basically then like, it's like Lazarus in a fight forever. It's like there's in Star Trek the original series, which I told you, I know this like really well. I don't know why I'm not sure if the name of the title of the episode was Lazarus, but it's basically about opposing forces that are equally matched and trapped in purgatory and continually in a death struggle where nobody ever seems to die, nobody ever seems to get an upper hand. And while I understand that Israel has a stronger army, this just seemed like 20 years ago I would have said, if you don't do it, whoever is left alive is going to be seeking vengeance 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. They will be. They will be. So if they just would take care of it, that it would end it forever. And they would get political flack and everyone be mad and say, I can't believe what they did. That's what I would have said 20 years ago. And I'm not going to kid you, it's a cold statement, but that's where I was. But I started coming to a place where I was like, I don't think that that's proper morality to basically punish the children for the sins of the father and sometimes mother. So I'm not sanctioning that. And that's why when I say today where I'm at is I want them to obliterate Hamas. I really do. I want them to just obliterate Hamas. I'm fully cognizant of the fact that whoever's in Hamas has children, and those children are likely to be seeking vengeance 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Many of them, if not all of them. We've seen training videos where they're teaching their children to hate and desire to kill Israelis, and have been doing that for many decades. And that's why when I think about this whole situation, I think about okay, what if they simply just asserted control? And I'm not talking about punishing. Let's say they were to get rid of Hamas. and to basically encourage. I mean, the only thing that they could do is to as far as worrying for the future, is to control the educational system there. And I'm not sure how you would actually effectuate something like that to control the education system there. Like, if you're an Israeli, would you want to be like teaching Palestinian kids? It's a really tough. It's a really tough situation. It's really tough. There is no answer, which is why this Lazarus battle has been going on for as long as it has. So I'm going to finish up on these, and I'll get back to anything. Reuters was reporting a Catholic cardinal who asked Hamas to take him and let hostages go. We stand with you in this atrocity. I'm Catholic as well, and this saddens me as I pray daily. That's a really brave cardinal. I don't foresee them ever doing that. But it's a really brave person. I want to post Painted Black, which is sort of dark since I'm with a Via and she's wonderful. And I agree. Ultimately, Joseph, he's right. Joseph did have the best comment. Like, he's like God judge. You just made me calm down. Thanks, Joe. All right. I was just talking. But I'm glad I helped somewhat. Okay. I just don't want to see innocent people die, irrespective of their race, religion, creed. I just don't want to see that. And there's definitely some innocence there. It's very tough. All right. The problem, and the reason it's so tough, is because they're innocents who we know are being fed poison every day. Every day, fed more poison and more poison to their minds. So it's still unclear how many hostages are held in Gaza. And the spokesperson for Hamas military wing. Oh, we got this. The spokesperson Abu Obaida said the Al-Qassam brigades held about 200 hostages, while the rest was held by other militant formations in Gaza, adding that they cannot determine the exact number of hostages in the strip at this stage due to constant Israeli bombardment. The IDF, which, yeah, okay, it's so unfair how we're being bombarded. The IDF has been relentlessly pounding Gaza with airstrikes and artillery following the deadly Hamas terror attack. Palestinian news agency Wafa reported on Monday that more than 2,800 people have been killed in Gaza. Earlier on Monday, the Israeli military said at least 199 people were being held hostage in Gaza. So I guess there really are that many. Earlier on Monday, the IDF said it was using all intelligence and operational means to return the abductees, and that Hamas is trying to present itself as a humanitarian organization while acting as a hideous terrorist organization responsible for killing and kidnapping infants, women, and children and the elderly. Meanwhile, Abu Obaida claimed 22 of the hostages in Gaza were killed in Israeli airstrikes. Yeah, I'm expecting they're going to claim every death died in an airstrike. That's what I'm expecting. Every hostage who does not make it back, they're going to blame that Israel killed them. Were killed in Israeli airstrikes, including Israeli artist whom he said lost his life on Saturday. CNN cannot independently verify those claims. Abu Obaida added that the Al-Qassam brigades will be releasing hostages around foreign citizenship when the opportunity arises on the ground, said Al-Qassam, and said Al-Qassam is committed to protecting them. And that's an image of Mia Shem prior to the attacks. Looks very innocent. Shem was kidnapped from the Nova Festival near the Gaza Strip after Hamas fighters launched a terror attack last Saturday that so far killed at least 1,400 people. At least 260 people were found dead at the site of the festival, according to the IDF. Sharf Shem said her daughter had messaged a friend who was also at the festival at 7:17 a.m. on Saturday morning saying, "They are shooting at us. Please come save us." Calling her daughter the heart of the family, Sharf Shem described Mia as a caring sibling and her best friend. "Mia, if you can see us, we want to tell you from all the family and all the people in Israel," Shem's brother Eli Shem told CNN, "We're waiting for you. We love you. And we're going to do anything to bring you back home." So there you go. There you go. And prayers for Mia Shem as well as the rest of the hostages who are currently being held by these terrorists. I see a red door and I want to paint black. I understood your reference. I understood it. Let's get here. All right. This is the next thing I want to share with you here. It's from The Guardian.
I didn't know she's dead
This is Mia's mother, Karen Sharp Shem.
or alive until yesterday. All I knew is that she's might be kidnapped. I'm begging the world to bring my baby back home.
That is a still shot from the video. That's a still frame from the video that they shared.
She looks very terrified. She looks like she's in big pain. I can see that she's saying what they tell her to say, but I can see that she's stable. I can see she needs medical care.
I'm going to tell you that this mother, she seems really strong. Like, I mean, really strong. Hopeful, obviously worried, but a lot of people wouldn't have the strength to talk to the press about this. It was a very strong woman.
She only went to a party, to a festival party, to have some fun. And now she's in Gaza, and she's not the only one. There are many children who went to this party. There are many babies and children and old people and Holocaust survivors that were kidnapped, that their houses were burned. This is a crime against humanity, and we should all gather and stop this terror and bring everybody back home.
Amen. Amen. I feel for that woman. I've been all the families here, all the families of these hostages, and the pain they must be in, and the uncertainty of it all. It's horrifying. England says, what's amusing and dark, I have a bloodlust to end this, but I also have work for military medical. I saw what happens to our warfighters when they come home. So you were right, Joe. And the reason I shared with you my perspective 20 years ago is to let you know that I definitely understand that concept. I definitely understand that and have felt that. So lust is a sin, bloodlust infinitely more so. Yeah. And I assume that you're referring to the England DGs, but I'll tell you this: even where I was at 20 years ago, it was not a bloodlust of like revenge. It was a matter of just make this stop. Just make it stop. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Intifada, both Intifadas, where it's just like people would be on a bus, which would suddenly blow up because the person would kill themselves. And it was like, it's like, what do we need to do to just make this stop? It's never gonna, when will it ever end? So yeah, it wasn't a matter of like eye for an eye. It was a matter of there's no way to stop. There's no way to get it to stop. Janelle says, hadn't occurred to me, but Ravers accounts indicate some were too high on recreational drugs to save themselves. Somehow hits harder. End Hamas, period. Yeah, well, I'm all on board ending Hamas. Shaul's super amazing football parlays. Go you, Shaul. Couldn't get him last video. Hard to sign up for locals. I'm sorry that it's difficult for you to sign up for locals, brother. I know that they can be like really annoying. I remember when I signed up to it, I was like, what the heck is this? But I want to thank each and every one of you who signed up to my locals the other night, because there were a bunch of you. There were a bunch of you who signed up. And it seemed that a lot of people managed to sign up for free, which is what I wanted. I forgot to mention that night, and I probably should have mentioned that night, that for those of you who want to fully participate and really just don't have the $5 a month, I'm happy to provide free access to everything. Then I have a code that's set up that's supposed to be usable on a recurring basis over and over and over again, that I'm not trying to take money from people who have no entertainment budget, which is what I consider this to be. I consider it to be entertainment budget. So if those who the reason the fee is there with, and I don't just give it out, is because I want to encourage people who have an entertainment budget to show their support. But I'm not looking to be exclusive from anybody who cannot afford it. And I know, unfortunately, given Bidenomics, that there's far too many of you who literally could not possibly think about affording it. And that's why I urge anyone who's like that, I'm not going to ask for financials. I'm not going to ask for proof. All you need to do is send me the request, tell me what your name is, and I will DM you a code to sign up for a free month, and you'll be able to use that code every month. And that'll last for like till the end of 2023. And then if your situation is the same, you tell me, hey, can I get that code again? And I'll give it to you over and over again. I'll do that for 20 years. I don't care. I'm never looking to take money from people who don't have money. And I don't want to be exclusive. I feel like I'm trying to provide entertainment and information that is beneficial to my listeners. And I don't want anyone to be deprived because they're struggling financially. But I do need to motivate people to sort of dig into their pockets. So that's why I have the system set up as I do. Douglas Murray was asked about a proportional response from Israel. Excellent answer. There is no proportional response. There's no such thing as proportionality. There's no such thing as proportionality in war. There's no such thing. I don't know if it was Douglas Murray or someone else. I couldn't find it. Someone told me this quote, and I was like, and I thought it was a really good quote. It was like, okay, so like, what is proportional? So does that mean they beheaded X number of children, so that's how many Arab children will be beheaded, and we're going to behead? Does that make sense? Is that proportional? They attacked this many women, so we're going to send some guys in there and similarly attack them because that's proportional? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And the other thing is, you cannot possibly even try to figure out what is proportional when if Israel were to trade body blows 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, eventually, the Arabs outnumber, and the Arabs in the region totally outnumber them. Eventually, every Jew will be dead. So, how does that work out? How does that protect anyone? If they were to trade 1 for 1 over and over and over again, all right. Eventually, everyone's dead. Eventually, every Jew in the region is dead. Mary Coppola says that it's the sad part of war. There are always innocent people harmed, especially children. You should watch DUI guy who was there the day this thing started trying to get out. Pretty powerful documentation. I might have him on here. I probably can get him on. He's a friend of mine. I might be able to get him on here. It's a good idea. Make a mental note. Joe, get DUI guy on. I'm going to reach out to him. I like that call. Thank you, Mary. Oh, no, stop it. How terrible. Votes for government that sends rockets. I'm not sure what that means. Vote for Ziddick said, Joe, your position on the earlier live stream you joined was on point about free speech. I live in a place where we don't have that freedom. F Hamas. Yeah, so I was on a space earlier, and I actually spoke to Representative George Santos, and I'm not going to kid you. I didn't bring it up to him there because it wasn't appropriate to bring it up there, but he was in that space, and he was railing against the Arabs, and issuing a position that we're railing against Hamas. No, it was really more rallying against not the Arabs. I misspoke. He was rallying against Hamas and how it's a terror organization, and against Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar for their whole support of the Free Palestine movement. And he was losing it. I mean, he was losing it and saying how this is, the speech that he has prepared to say to Congress once Congress resumes and they get a House Speaker. And when he went through his whole speech, and part of what he was talking about there was hate speech, and that this hate speech has to be silenced. And I didn't like that. I did not like that. So I told him so. And I told him, and what I essentially told him was this, in case you missed it, which you likely did. I put a notification in locals so that anyone who follows my locals could jump in there. But what I told Santos, who is Jewish, not a Jew, but Jewish, I didn't mock him for that. I mocked him here, but I was like, it's not the time for it. What I told him was this. I said, I really want you to say to Congress this, that this is not a new tactic that the Arabs have engaged in. And we know why they do these attacks. We've seen them do this for 30 years since the first Intifada. That all they care about ultimately is blood. And it doesn't matter whose. If their target is Jewish blood, and if they get Jewish blood, great. And if they can bait Israel into returning fire for fire, and you see Arab blood from their perspective, the people who die, the children who die, they all go straight to heaven, and their parents have done a great job in raising them to be fine young souls that end up in heaven. And the PR from it is amazing. So they're very, very happy to see Jewish blood, and they're similarly little less happy. It's the happiness level is almost the same when they see Arab blood. And part of the reason that they're so excited about Arab blood, part of the reason that they're happy about it, is because they know it leads to PR, and that leads to powerful people in American government screaming that Israel is terrible, and that it promotes anti-Israel perspective, and helps portray the evil Zionists as out to murder all the Arabs. So people can be justified in their support of Free Palestine by pretending that Israel is bent on genocide or ethnic cleansing. So, and when they see politicians actually echoing those sentiments, they see politicians who basically will flash the images of dead Arab kids or destroyed hospitals and start decrying Israel as some, terrible fascistic state, and Netanyahu is Adolf and all this other stuff, that makes them salivate with glee because they feel like this pushes forward our agenda. And it motivates them to spread more bloodshed, create more bloodshed, to add until the sands of the region are covered in blood, Jew and Arab blood. Because ultimately they feel that is how they will win. So when you Ilhan Omar or you Rashida Tlaib start giving them that, you are only motivating them to try and kill more people, which leads to more dead Jews and more dead Arabs. It leads to more dead kids everywhere. And that's why I said you need to call them out. Now, you mentioned, and this is part of everything I was saying to George Santos, I said to him, you mentioned hate speech, and I'm going to tell you right now, there is no such thing as hate speech. There's no such thing. We should not be trying to silence anyone for what they say. However, just because someone should be allowed to say something doesn't mean that they should not be shunned for espousing awful, terrible, disgustingly evil, racist ideas like Free Palestine is continually promoting. And when they're sitting there screaming Free Palestine, that should be like screaming the N-word. That's what we need to do. It's not that we should silence them, because when someone screams the N-word, they're basically shunned as being some D-bag. And properly so. And that's what I said. That's what we need to do. We need to basically say every time you're doing this, it's filled. Every time you're screaming out like this, you are basically it's no worse than screaming. It's no less terrible than screaming out the N-word. And quite the contrary, arguably, given the nature of the ramifications of those statements, it's actually far worse because it's actually causing children to die. You're causing children to die, Ilhan Omar. You're causing children to die, Rashida Tlaib. Jewish children, Arab children. You're perpetuating this fight, and you are a useful idiot for the left. That last paragraph I said there, I didn't think to say to George, to Santos. So I don't want to misrepresent what I said to him. But I did say to him, I don't agree with labeling something hate speech. And after I finished, he said, well, I disagree with you about the whole hate speech thing. When you're calling for violence, you're promoting hate speech. And that's like, I'm like, okay, whatever. I was going to sit there arguing with him about this. But, he did recognize my point, and that this is all a PR stunt. And I was like, I said, think about it. They weren't trying to conquer Israel with this attack. There was never a thought they're going to conquer Israel. And they knew that Israel was going to respond. Why are they doing this? Because they want blood. They want the sands of that region to be drenched in blood, to have a bloodbath in there. Jewish blood, Arab blood, just blood. And you're feeding it to them, Rashid. You're feeding it to them, Ilhan. That's what you're doing. Prayers for your son, his bride. Thank you, Tam. You're too kind. Last night's local show was amazing. Also sent a Twitter DM for later. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll try checking it out. Francisco Linares. This might not end. Islam calls for subjugation of non-Muslims and pay a jizya head tax. They expect to rule or be ruled in an authoritarian manner so long as who's in charge is Muslim. I think that some of them do. Some of them certainly, yeah. Proportional question: does this apply to any Arab, just Palestinians, or just Hamas? Asking for a friend as long as we are being ridiculous. What I'm saying is, a proportional definitely applies to Hamas, and to the extent that Hamas uses Palestinian civilians as shields, that bloodshed is not on Israel. It is ridiculous for them to say. I mean, think about this. Think about someone. Think about someone who basically, someone who is a crazy lunatic murderer. Put aside this thing. Just someone who just is hell bent on killing people, and he gets surrounded by the police. Let's say in some town, it doesn't matter. I'll pick a town in the middle of nowhere, in Des Moines. Okay, and he's surrounded, and he holds his kid as a hostage and puts a gun to his own kid's head and says, if you come any closer, I'm gonna kill him. And you try getting him not to, say don't, but he does that to his own child, and then shoots the kid when you come closer. That's the same thing that's happening here. Or even if the police end up coming closer and the kid ends up dying in the fray. But it's like that's what's happening. I definitely would not apply it to Arabs writ large at all. No. So, and I'm not applying it on a blanket stroke to Palestinians. That was my point before in distinguishing between my position 20 years ago versus my position today. Joking about locals. Oh, well, I'm glad you were joking. Sadly, hospital bombing has swung the PR pendulum. Irrespective of responsibility, protests internationally tonight everywhere at Israeli American embassies, even before IDF moved into Gaza. So I want to cover that. I want to cover who exactly did this bombing, because that's just ridiculous. This is just gaslighting. This is gaslighting. I want to share with you this. I'm glad you brought this to my attention, so I'll start moving to the next story here. Let's start with a fact check. Okay. It was a fact check when fact checkers are doing what fact checkers do, which is basically make up whatever they want and say that that's what happened here, folks. Check your fact. So you probably heard that a bomb or a missile went off and ended up blowing up a hospital in Gaza, killing hundreds and wounding countless more. Israel says that it was done by Hamas, that they misfired, ended up hitting their own hospital. Hamas blames Israel and says it was an airstrike from Israel. Now, Hamas's perspective on this seems kind of strange because has Israel ever bombed a facility that was storing weapons, which is what Hamas does, is they store them in schools and in hospitals. Have they bombed those before? Yes, but they always send a warning beforehand, like a 5-minute notice saying, we're going to bomb this place in 5 minutes. You need to evacuate. Because that's how they use they use the weak and the sick as their human shields. Because, like I said, what they want is blood. Doesn't matter whose. So, if it's the blood of the weak and the sick, it's that much more pathetic, that much more pitiful, and that much more sympathetic for the Ilhans and the Rashidas of the world. So, but at the same time, Israel still tries to give them 5 minutes notice. And they shared video, which basically was showing that, hey, here's a whole bunch of firing off right before the hospital, right before you see the hospital go down. In fact, let's start with that one. Here's the footage I wanted you to see. This is the hospital being blown up here. So footage proves terrorists. This is Israel Hayom, which is obviously going to be pro-Israel. This is their perspective on it. They say, watch the footage proves terrorists to blame for Gaza hospital explosion. And Palestinians rushed to blame Israel on Tuesday for the explosion that reportedly killed hundreds in a Gaza hospital. So there's a few videos.
بلغ عن إصابات في صفوف الإسرائيليين، ونحن نشير إلى أن هذه المدينة هي الأكثر تعرضا للصواريخ منذ بداية هذه الحرب. عمدة المدينة كانت تحدث قبل أيام عن أكثر من 1000 صاروخ طال هذه المدينة، وأكثر من 170 صاروخا سقط بالفعل وأحدث دمارا في البنى التحتية وفي السيارات وفي المباني العامة والخاصة.
شكرا جزيلا لك.
The IDF officially announced that the blast of the Al Ma'amadani Hospital, Ma'amadani Hospital in the center of the Strip, which led to deaths between hundreds and dozens of Palestinians, was the result of a failed rocket launch carried out by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The anti-Israel Qatari network Al Jazeera also aired footage showing that a failed rocket launch from Gaza exploded within the Gaza Strip on the premises just minutes before channels associated with Hamas reported a strike against the hospital in Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also rebuffed the Palestinian accusation, writing on Twitter, quote, an analysis of IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the Al-Ali hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from multiple sources we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. The Al-Ali hospital is the new name of the Al-Ma'amadani hospital. The Palestinians claim that the destruction is a result of deliberate Israeli aggression. They even called it a massacre of hundreds. The explosion occurred in the hospital's courtyard, and the main cause of the high number of casualties is the Palestinians turning hospital premises into shelters, in part because Hamas has stopped them from evacuating south as Israel has asked them to do. And here's video of the failed launch. Look at the rapid fire of these missiles going up. This is what you're seeing here on the right of the screen are missiles, multiple missiles being fired from Gaza. And shortly, you're going to see an explosion more towards the center of the screen. Right there. Now, it's important to note the speed of how fast those rockets are being fired out. Look at this. Try and count the timing on this. Okay. Because this is what's so frustrating. Look at the firing going on here. 2, 3, 4. We'll start from. Let me go back to the beginning. You see there's one there at the beginning. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Boom. Okay. So that's that video. Here's a fact check here, which is claiming that this video is inaccurate. So fact check video does not show Hamas rocket hitting Gaza hospital. This was done by Elias Atienza, senior reporter at checkyourfact.com, your source for actual factual reporting. He says the verdict is false. The video is from 2022. It shows a rocket barrage from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a different organization. Really? Is that what it is? At least 500 people are estimated to have been killed from an explosion on the Al Ali Baptist Hospital, which is not the right hospital. I don't think it's a Baptist hospital. I remember seeing that, but maybe. In the Gaza Strip, October 17th, with the cause of the explosion currently unknown. According to Reuters, thousands of displaced people were sheltering there. More victims are still being discovered in the rubble, CNN reports. Social media users are sharing a video claiming to show a Hamas rocket hitting the hospital. The video caption reads, confirmed, Hamas rocket was one that hit the Al Ali Baptist Hospital in Gaza City. The video, however, has been circulating since August 2022, as indicated in the bottom right of the video, through a keyword search. Check Your Fact found the video was published August 7, 2022 by the Israeli Defense Forces. And this is the tweet from August of 2022. And look at the pace of these rockets as they're going up. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a different angle. It's slower. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's a much slower pace. It's a much different angle. And it's not at all the same video. I mean, it's obviously a different angle. But it's like the rockets that are being fired in this video, which is debunking the evidence that it was it was Hamas that blew up their own hospital, presumably accidentally. It's a different pace. The angle is different. The angle. When I say the angle, I don't mean the angle from which we see the shots going off, because that can be different. What I'm saying is the angle of the bombs going up just seems like. It just seems to me to be flatter. It's a much flatter angle, meaning instead of the rockets that we saw in the first video going up at like a 70-degree angle, this looks more like a 50-degree angle. Look at the angle on this. Now, could that be belied? Could that be belied based on the angle from which the camera is positioned? Yes, it could. Which is why I don't think that alone would be sufficient evidence. Although it definitely looks flatter to me. Like this is like a 50-degree angle that these show. Sometimes even less than that. Sometimes it looks like it's like a 40-degree angle. Some of them. In the other video that we were looking at here, the angle seems to be closer to 60, 70 degrees. Like not even close to the same angle. And the pace of the firing looks completely different as well. Look at this. You can't tell me, because this is faster firing off of weapons at a completely different angle. So I don't understand what the heck this fact check is doing. Perhaps some people were on social media. If I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, it's possible that some people on social media were using that first video to say, aha, you see. But I'll tell you this. This set of launches to me of missiles is completely unrelated altogether, based on the speed of the missiles going out and the angles and the angle of the fire, of the intended fire, completely different from this one. Not even like the same ballpark. Which is what, and this is the one that's being used to debunk because it's too dated. This is much lower angle with much fewer shots being rapid fire out. So, anyway. So, for my money, I think that these claims that this was Israel airstrike seem to be on very thin ice. Now, I'm obviously one person, but I wanted to share that with you because that was, to me, that was, I'm very outraged that it's like when Hamas screws up and ends up killing their own people, obviously it's Israel's fault. Obviously the IDF did it. Bogey 34, hey, Ben brother. Hassan Shami says Israel is hell-bent on World War III. Thoughts? Absolutely not. If hell-bent on World War III, if they were hell-bent on World War III, they would have carpet bombed everything. They wouldn't be 2,000. How many thousands of bombs have they dropped? And there's 2,000 dead Arabs. They've dropped, I think, like 10,000 bombs. If they were hell-bent on World War III, there would have been 12 destroyed hospitals by now. There would be hundreds of thousands dead. You think it's difficult? It's like, frankly, when you consider the density of the population in Gaza, it seems like they're bending over backwards to be very targeted in who they hit, rather than just randomly just firing off and killing people. It's like almost like they're like sharpshooting, trying to hit certain specific targets rather than just looking to just kill Arabs. And listen, as most of you know, I know Hassan Shami. I haven't met him personally, but I had him on my show here, and I think that he believes what he's saying, and I think that in his heart he's a good person. I don't think he's rooting for every Jew to be killed, but I do think that his perspective of this has been somewhat tilted based on cultural upbringing, and this is something I discussed with him. And to be fair, he thinks the same of me. Philip Coggins says Palestinians are only angry because they can't win the wars they start. Now they're going to get a genocide. It's just not the one they wanted. I don't think it's going to be a genocide, but they will call it a genocide. It's going to be the furthest thing in the world from a genocide. And this is something I tweeted out. I was like, this guy was talking about how Israel is engaged in ethnic cleansing and trying to get rid of Arabs, and how there were so many Arabs there in 1948. Dude, there were 700,000 Arabs there in 1948 and 7 million in the region today. 7 million. This is the worst ethnic cleansing ever. If their job is to do ethnic cleansing, I don't know. Israelis seem to be really good at accomplishing the results that they want in general. When they set their minds on doing something, they seem to be pretty effective at doing it. So if they actually had their minds on ethnic cleansing, I don't know. Somehow, I've never heard of ethnic cleansing where the local region, which ethnic cleansing is a reference to like clearing out anyone from the area. They have ethnic cleansing with Arabs in their government. They have ethnic cleansing where the local region has, since they've been in control of the area, has increased literally tenfold. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know. And this is something that the video I was watching the other night was basically attacking. This is what I was covering on that I was watching on Locals. That it was like ethnic cleansing. It's like look at the Arab countries, which used to have hundreds of thousands of Jews living there, and now you can't scrap together 14 of them. I'm not upset with you, Philip. I want to be clear on that. I'm not upset with you at all. I'm simply saying that. So they use the term genocide because it sounds like a nicely charged term that they can yell at, that Israel is evil. But everyone recognizes that it's the furthest thing. Anyone who's really assessing it like fairly recognizes the furthest thing from reality. I bet George Santos is outraged-ish. He seemed very sincere. I'm not going to kid you. He seemed very sincere. I hate the fact that he's basically that this is the guy I've got like pitching for me. It's like, really, this is the guy I've got pitching. I don't know. Doesn't really. It's hard, you know, based on how he started his government career. How is anyone ever going to take him seriously? Seriously, how's anyone going to take him seriously? I literally had the same conversation about J6 with someone, how it didn't help us at all. It's perspective. Yeah. Debbie O says, I copied from you on someone's summary with a bunch of links and DM'd you on X. It's long, may not be useful for you tonight, maybe later. I appreciate I appreciate people sharing links with me. I don't always get to them right away, but I do eventually get to them, and I really appreciate it. It depends on how busy my schedule is with different things, but I really do appreciate people sharing links with me. I appreciate when it's shared on locals also. I try to go through those as well, because I think that the stuff that you guys provide there is invaluable for me to and enjoyable and educational. So force feed Joe some bacon. Okay, brother. I don't want it to happen, but I lost my last F to give out Palestinian kids somewhere around Ma'alot. To have no tears left for them. I understand that. Cars. I got it. I was making a joke earlier, but does bacon equal peace? Bacon is the one thing that no one in this conflict eats. Muslims do not eat bacon. So, yeah. Way behind. I'm tuning in tonight, Joe. I'll keep your son doing all my thoughts and prayers. Well, thank you, Snazzy. You're very thoughtful. I appreciate that. Those are fireworks of peace. They're mostly peaceful fireworks. Mostly peaceful missiles. Fiery, but mostly peaceful missiles. Viola Pride, when they make the rockets out of the water pipes, there's bound to be an operator error in the making. Yeah, you think? Maybe? People wonder they can't get water. It's like, this is humanitarian crisis. They can't get water. I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't take apart your own water pipes to make bombs. And Most Band Queen says, I hate how much talking about this. This must hurt your heart, Joe, but also you're late in China. Yeah, I really don't. Yeah. Yeah. Kelly Bruner says, so glad you presented that. You're welcome. I saw it and I'm like, this is something people need to realize, like how bad the fact checking is here. It's crazy. It's crazy how terrible this is. It's awful. Shaul, my friend, sadly, it doesn't matter who did it. Palestinian supporters don't believe evidence, and those in the middle are pointing to deaths to advocate for a ceasefire. Yeah. You're going to get the doves. The doves are going to come out. They were advocating for a ceasefire. Some people were advocating for a ceasefire before Israel even went in there. And yes, that their voices will increase in number the longer this goes on. The longer this goes on, it's really more a matter of, this is the thing I want to point out to you. The longer this goes on, the more sentiment turns away from Israel. And again, I'm definitely not advocating for just dead innocents. The problem is that Israel's mercy, because everyone recognizes that they could destroy Gaza in 3 hours if they were so inclined. Certainly one day of hardcore bombing and Gaza would never be the same. And there would be a lot of dead children, a lot of dead innocent Palestinians who took no part and had no interest in these attacks happening. And what's frustrating is this. I just want to share this thought with you. What's so frustrating is this. When Stalin made that quote saying like 3 people's a tragedy, 3,000 is a statistic. People, it happens to be, it's very true. That's just the way human nature is. And when you say 3,000, it really, our brains cannot conceptualize large numbers of horrific abuses. If I tell you, for example, okay, let me make this point the following way. When America invaded Iraq and found the torture devices that were being used by Udi and Qusay Hussein, Saddam's sons, they estimated that the Iraqi leadership wiped out 400,000 of their own people. 400,000. Now, if I had just said 40,000, I would say with the exact same emphasis. 40,000 people. 40,000 people. There's no difference when someone is expressing it and talking about it, whether you say 40 or 400. And just to make that point even more clearly, when I just gave you those numbers, those were completely made up numbers. I honestly don't remember. I just completely just made that number up. And the point is that the number doesn't matter when you're telling it over to people, because you just feel, how can you feel more tragedy for 40,000 versus 38,000 versus 50,000 versus 500,000? You feel great tragedy right away, and it's all the same. It's all the same to the listener, and you feel awful about it, angry maybe, like furious about it. But it's the same level of fury whether it's 40,000 or 400,000. The number might have been 10,000. If I told you 10,000, wouldn't change how you end up feeling about it. And that's why in this instance, the reason I'm making that point is, in this instance, Israel's mercy is actually working against it. That does not mean that it should not be merciful. And when I say their mercy, I mean they could, if they were so inclined, if they had a bloodlust, if they were so inclined, they could have killed 1.5 million Palestinians within 48 hours of the initial attack. And everyone would be mad about the 1.5 million Palestinians, but they wouldn't be any more mad about it than they would be if it was 20,000 Palestinians. And the only difference is that the residue as to who could harm Israel in the future would be far less significant if it actually was 1.5 million. But that would be immoral. That would be unjust. And that's why I get so outraged when I hear about how Bibi is this big fascist and Israel is this big, terrible, evil state, and all they want to do is commit genocide. Because everyone knows if they wanted to commit genocide, they could. And if they did want to commit genocide, the best way for them to do it politically would be in one fell swoop. While emotions are high, while people are still seeing those dead bodies at a festival. If they wanted to do it, that's where you would do it. But every day we get further from that horrific attack that happened 10 days ago. The anger and outrage that people feel over that attack erodes. It starts slipping away. You start forgetting about how terrible it was that they burned people, that they were beheading babies. You grow numb to it. You remember it, but your emotion is not nearly as raw once that emotion has had time to heal for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, until it doesn't mean anything at a certain point. You don't feel it anymore. Now, those people are just as tortured and just as dead. But we as humans don't have capacity to feel anything after a certain point. So that being the case, what ends up happening is if someone has an agenda to say, hey, I want to stop this from happening, and I don't care at all about innocent life, the intelligent way to do it is to act swiftly, decisively, and with utter carnage. That's how you would do it. That's how you would do it politically. And you know that you'll get some sort of hit, and people will be that, and you'll be able to throw up there. These are the dead bodies that we're still burying, that the Hamas animals put in the grave 4 days ago. That we're still burying. So yeah, they have their dead. We have our dead. And people would talk about the proportionality and say, well, that was really unproportionate. And say, this is what we had to do. And it's unfortunate that there are civilians who request, but this is what we had to do. That's what you would do if Israel had a bloodlust. That would be the most effective way to deal with it on an international stage. But Israel doesn't have that type of heartlessness. Ask yourself if Hamas would show that kind of mercy. if the roles were reversed, if this was a whole bunch of Israelis in Gaza, do you think for a second that Israelis would actually carry out an attack like this? And if they had carried out an attack like this, do you think for a second that Hamas would not have been carpet bombing and saying, to hell with all the civilians, they can all die? So this is where Israel's mercy, in a PR perspective, actually is a weapon against them. It harms them. Because as they try to surgically go after the right people, it takes time. That takes more effort. That takes more work. It's harder to do. And while there's some level of blood and there's some level of innocence that end up suffering, it's minimal compared to what it would be if they did it quickly and efficiently in a time perspective. So their mercy in saying we don't want to just kill random people when we're blowing out Hamas means that this gets protracted over time, longer and longer and longer and longer. And the longer we get from it, the more numb everyone gets the initial attack that started this whole thing. And the longer they're in there, the worse it seems like another day of Israel attacking Hamas. There was one day of attacks, and it's another day of them attacking, another day of them attacking, another day of attacking for 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, potentially 5 months. Where at a certain point, the world starts turning against them, saying, I can't believe you're still attacking them. How terrible it is. Whereas if they would have done it, they could have done it in 48 hours. And if they had done it in 48 hours, the level of kickback they would get would likely be less, because it would just be like, oh, okay, that happened. There was really an overreaction. They shouldn't have done that. Bad Israel, and then move on, end of story. And that's why 20 years ago, I would have said, hey, that's what they need to do. That's what they need to do. Take the PR hit for a couple of months about how wrong they were for overreacting, and just do it. But Israel didn't have that level of heartlessness, that level of coldness, and a lot of people think that they were wrong. A lot of Israelis think that they were wrong for not having that level of heartlessness. But that is the nature of the way Israel acts, and their kindness and their mercy and their refusal to just willy-nilly kill civilians ends up leaving them embroiled in this much longer and taking a much greater PR hit. Ethnic blood feuds in the Middle East had nothing to do with Americans. I wondered, did you cover the ethnic cleansing of Armenians in 2022? No, I didn't, Richie. I didn't. I cover this because people want me to cover it. If you're new here, you'll and I say to you, first and foremost, welcome. And secondly, I say to you, one of the things I keep stressing here is I don't want Americans being involved in this. Now, sharing what's happening in the news is one thing, but I'm not sitting here saying America needs to go, fight. I've never even called for America to send money over there. And day one, when I started covering this, I started talking about my struggle with that perspective. And the refusal for me to become hypocritical, where I was chastising America for investing so much money in Ukraine versus the situation here in Israel. And I said I can't really make a distinction that I can be confident is sufficiently material that I'm going to sit here campaigning and say no, we need to send money to Israel. So you've never heard me say that. You never heard me say that. But covering this story is an ongoing conflict. And apparently, a lot of people have interest in it. So it's affecting the world. And when I say a lot of people, I mean, you can't find news stories. You can find some. Jim Jordan is something I plan on talking about today. I still will. But yeah. Bob the Guy Made Mad says, does no one else see how this became the Super Bowl for Gentiles? Joe, you have a very level-headed response situation. Is put a mirror to the west, and what it reveals isn't pretty. I'm not trying to put a mirror, but I appreciate the level-headedness that you. I'm trying my best here. I'm telling you, the key is bacon. It's not bacon. What did you expect from Biden? What do you expect from Biden's visit tomorrow? I'm not sure that he's still going. I don't expect anything. Literally, I have no expectations. The only thing I ask of America, and the only thing I've asked from the outset, is don't chastise Israel on how they handle their response to this. Don't ever chastise them. Just let them do what they feel it needs to be done. That's it. Just don't make them. Don't say to them, this is wrong what you're doing. Don't start, besmirching their reaction. Let them just be free to do what they need to do. Perun has a good video about IDF. I gotta start put this stuff in here. 1 hour Perun. Perun is. I'll try to check it out. I made a little note to myself. To be fair, bacon is the pinnacle of Western civilization, is it? I don't know. Jews and Muslims can't get along. They don't eat bacon. Crunch. All right. Should I miss anything on locals? We're good on locals. Locals chat. Still good. Okay. I'm good there. Am I good over here? I'm good over here. Can I go to Jim Jordan? No, I'm not good here yet. Real Patriots Party says, Joe, you suck at ST Star Trek Terms of Service. The original series quotes, so just stop. You're never even close. I've never been. Are you joking? First of all, did I try doing Star Trek original series quotes tonight? Because I don't think so. I'm really good at it. I was trying to explain the Lazarus thing tonight. All right. Let's get to Paleon's throwaway says, I think this proportionality ignores the history. Proportional says recent attack or to the 75 years worth of war. Maybe this event destroyed both Camel's back. Pearl Harbor was ours. Yeah, that's true. When we talk about proportionality, no one mentions, Pearl Harbor. We had a pretty visceral reaction to Pearl Harbor. Pretty visceral. A lot more Japanese died than boats being sunk. Way smoked pork on the Joe's nose. I'm telling you, man, bacon. I'll tell you this much. I like smoked. I mean, my flavor is always towards smoky. I was a long time smoker before I was doing this, and even the alcohol that I like is always the very peaty, very smoky. This is like the peatiest stuff in the world. And I've smelled bacon, and yeah, I'm not going to kid you. It smells really good. And I have absolutely no expectation that I will ever put that in between my lips. God forbid. And don't tell me Jews don't eat bacon. I know a lot of Jews who eat bacon. Ginos. Ginos. That's what you know. Ginos. Ginos. Jews in name only. That's what you know, my friend. All right. Let me get on to Jim Jordan. Where is this? I gotta find it now. This is not it. What do I do with you? Jim Jordan. That's not it. All right. All right. Look at the high factuality. Look at what I'm looking at here. Look what I'm looking at. The ground news. Let's see which way we go. How do we do this? Republican Jim Jordan falls short in first vote for U.S. House Speaker. And they have all these different sources. They have 183 articles, which feels like a lot. A lot of articles on this. I haven't signed up yet, so you might see I haven't signed up yet. But I do plan on signing up for this. And what I like is that they have high factuality, center, leans left, I don't know that I trust them on their center versus lean left versus lean right. I don't know that I trust them. But we're just going to pick one that I haven't. Who sounds good? They say high factuality. It's hard to get the facts wrong. All right, we're going to go with the Austin Daily Herald. Let's see what we got here. Republicans rejected Representative Jim Jordan for black. Republicans rejected Representative Jim Jordan for House Speaker on a first ballot Tuesday as an unexpectedly numerous 20 holdouts denied the hard-charging ally of Donald Trump the GOP majority needed to seize the gavel. So it's the House number is at 221 to 212, 214. So they can't lose 4 votes. That's what it is. It's 435. So it's 221 to 212. So they can't lose 4 votes. So Republicans rejected Jim Jordan for House Speaker on first ballot Tuesday as an unexpectedly numerous 20 holdouts denied the hard-charging ally of Donald Trump the GOP majority needed to seize the gavel. More voting is expected as Jordan works to shore up support to replace the ousted Kevin McCarthy for the job. The House went into recess as the firebrand leader of the GOP's hard-right flank struggled to take a central seat of U.S. power. See, this is definitely left-leaning because I would not say that he's the leader of the GOP's hard-right flank. I would say that he did have more of a leadership role when he was in the Freedom Caucus. I think over the last couple of years, he's definitely become a little bit more moderate. And I definitely would not call him a hard right, although I don't know what hard right means in any of these contexts. Hard right basically means unwilling to send billions of dollars to Ukraine. I think that's what they mean by hard right. Hard right, I guess, means someone it's harder for us to buy, for corporations to buy, the way they bought Dan Crenshaw. Do you think that maybe that's what they mean by hard right? That's possible. Definitely possibility. After 2 weeks of angry Republican infighting since McCarthy was removed by hardliners, the House vote quickly became a showdown for the gavel. Reluctant Republicans refused to give Jordan their votes, viewing the Ohio congressman as too extreme for the powerful position of House Speaker, second in line to the presidency. Second in line? Really? Second? That's the way you understand things to be? Is that how you understand things to be, Austin Daily Herald? That if the president were to die, next in line behind that would be the House Speaker. Is that how you really understand things? Everyone gives Kamala such short shrift. Such short shrift. Second in line to the presidency. This is what I'm reading. Jordan said afterward, he was not surprised and expected to do better in the next round, expected later Tuesday. We feel confident, he said, ducking into leadership office. We've already talked to some members who are going to vote with us on the second ballot. The tally, with 200 Republicans voting for Jordan and 212 for Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries in New York, left no candidate with a clear majority. No candidate. Okay. No, it's a clear majority there for Hakeem. He might win. Maybe Hakeem will win. Wow. All right. I reject. I'm. This is bad. I'll struggle to fight my way through the rest of this, but I'm not a big fan of Austin Daily Herald. This is terrible reporting. Who wrote this? This is terrible. Trinity, powered by Trinity. It's by AP. Wow. Okay. Okay, AP. I would say there's one guy with a strong majority. It's Jim Jordan. Unfortunately, a majority is not enough in this setting. Left no candidate with clear majority as 20 Republicans vote for someone else. With Republicans in majority control, Jordan must pick up most of his GOP foes to win. This is true. The holdouts are a mix of pragmatists, ranging from seasoned legislators and committee chairs worried about governing to newer lawmakers from districts where their voters back home prefer President Joe Biden to Trump. But with public pressure, I'd like to see the names of those 20 people. But with public pressure bearing down on lawmakers from Trump allies, allies, including Fox News channel Sean Hannity. It's unclear how long the holdouts can last. Jordan swiftly flipped dozens of detractors in a matter of days, shoring up Republicans who have few options left. This is true. Well, days ago, last week, when they had the vote on Friday, he was like at 156. So he moved up another 44 or so. Shoring up Republicans who have few options left. Quote, Jim Jordan will be a great speaker, the former president said outside the courthouse in Manhattan, where he's facing business fraud charges. I'll tell you right now, Jim Jordan should tell Trump, just don't talk about the whole speaker rate. Just don't, because nobody who is going to be taking marching orders from Trump is voting against Jim Jordan right now. So, and the people who he needs to sway are probably not big fans of the Don. So yeah, just a reminder that hey, the two of them are pretty bosom. Not really helpful. Not helpful right now, Don. Not helpful. I think he's going to have the votes soon, if not today, over the next day or two. Political climb has been steep for Jordan, the combative Judiciary Committee chairman and founding member of the Right Flank Freedom Caucus. I guess if you believe in the Constitution, that makes you hard right. So there you go. He's known more as a chaos agent than a skilled legislator, raising questions about how he would lead. Congress faces daunting challenges, risking a federal shutdown if it fails to fund the government and fielding President Joe Biden's request for aid to help Ukraine and Israel in the wars abroad. With the House Republican majority narrowly held at 221 to 212. Is that what it was? I thought it was 221 to 214. Jordan can afford to lose only a few votes to reach the 217 majority threshold if there are no further absences. Jordan conferred immediately afterward with McCarthy, who fared nearly as badly in January, having lost almost as many votes on the first of what would become 15 ballots for the gavel. As the somber roll call was underway, each lawmaker announcing their choice, the holdouts quickly surfaced. One, Representative Don Bacon, no more Bacon. A leader of the centrists voted McCarthy, the ousted former speaker. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Others voted for Majority Leader Stephen Scalise, who was the party's first nominee to replace McCarthy before he too was rejected by hardliners last week. Making the official nominating speech was another top Trump ally, GOP conference chairwoman Representative Elise Stefanik of New York, who drew from the lessons of the Old Testament before declaring Jordan will be we the people's speaker. On the other side of the aisle, Democratic Caucus Chairman Representative Pete Aguilar of California nominated Hakeem Jeffries and warned that handing the speaker's gavel to a vocal election denier would be a terrible message at home and abroad. Well, maybe it's a message that we should have greater scrutiny and transparency of our elections so that we don't have to worry about that. Aguilar recited all the times Jordan voted against various measures, abortion access, government aid, and others, Democrats chanting, he said no. It's like they're a bunch of children, Democrats. They're like a bunch of children. What's wrong with you? He said no. He said no. Mindless children. What am I supposed to chant? He said no. Okay. He said no. Aguilar recited all times upset that a small band of hardliners have upended the House by ousting McCarthy. Republicans have watched their majority control of the chamber descend into public infighting. All House business has ground to a halt. This is true. One holdout, Republican Representative Ken Buck of Colorado. I told you I don't like this guy. I don't like Ken Buck. He was one of the 8 people who got rid of McCarthy, and he's a holdout here? God, what a nuisance this guy is. Said Jordan's role in the run-up to the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol and his refusal to admit that Biden, a Democrat, won the 2020 election remained an issue. Jim, at some point, if he's going to lead his conference during the presidential election cycle, and particularly in a presidential election year, is going to have to be strong and say Donald Trump didn't win the election and we need to move forward, Buck said. Gah! Ah! Ah! You have to bend the knee. Bend the knee is what Buck said. You are a disaster, Buck. I hate rhinos. Others said after Tuesday's first vote, they would simply wanted to register their protest but were withdrawn on subsequent balloting. How many others? I was talking when Santos was in there. He said that this was as of 4 or 5 hours ago. He said there are about 6 people who are hardline no right now on Jim Jordan. So out of the 20, there's 6 who are hardline no. And the implication was hardline never Jordans, according to them. 6. Which means that you would need to move 2 of them. So they're down to only 4. And you get your 217. So Jordan can rely on Trump support as well as pressure on colleagues from an army of grassroots activists who recognize him from cable news and fiery performances at committee hearings. Republicans say it'll be hard for rank-and-file lawmakers to oppose him in a public floor vote. Representative Matt Gaetz, Florida, who engineered McCarthy's ouster by a handful of hardliners, publicly praised each lawmaker who has flipped to Jordan's column and berated those who have not. Democrats have decried the far-right shift, calling Jordan the leader of the chaos wing of the GOP. He's sowing seeds of chaos. People who are not listening to everything that we want them to do. Can you believe it? This is crazy. America is going to fall as a democracy. This is our democracy at stake. It's always about the fall of democracy. Jordan's been top Trump ally, particularly during the January 6th Capitol attack by the former president's backers who were trying to overturn the 2020 election. He lost to Biden. Days later, Trump awarded Jordan a Medal of Freedom. Freedom. That's what he awarded them, a Medal of Freedom. Jim Jordan is an insurrectionist who has no place being second in line to the presidency. What is happening here? What is happening? Said Michael Fanone, a former D.C. police officer who was wounded fighting in the mob on January 6th. I don't care what Michael Fanone says. I don't care what I'm not worried about Michael Fanone. Why do so many people think that the vice president position doesn't exist? Second in line to the presidency. Did the Constitution change sometime in the last couple of days that I haven't looked at it? Has it changed? Did it just go straight from president to speaker? That's what's next. I do recognize it's third in line. Yeah, it is third in line, but not second. Now the Republican Party's frontrunner to challenge Biden in the 2024 election. Trump backed Jordan to replace McCarthy early on, was working against the nomination of Scalise, who withdrew last week after colleagues rejected their own rules and failed to coalesce around him. Tensions remain high among Republicans ahead of voting. Rank-and-file Republicans are exhausted by the internal infighting with no other work being done in Congress. And that's the good thing here is that most of these neocons have no backbone at all. So you just need a little bit of pressure in there, and the plastic spine that they have there just crack, 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 crack. Some Republicans resent being pressured by Jordan's allies and say they are being threatened with primary opponents if they don't support him as speaker, as you should be, Ken Buck. One aide said the office received an email from Fox News' Sean Hannity's team pushing Jordan. Others are simply upset by the way the whole process has dragged out. One Scalise backer, Representative Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania, began circulating an option to give Representative Patrick McHenry, the interim speaker pro tempore, more authority to lead. They just don't want to have to elect the speaker, so let's just make it McHenry. First elected in 2006, Jordan has few bills to his name from his time in office. He also faces questions about his past. Some years ago, Jordan denied allegations of former wrestlers during his time as assistant wrestling coach at Ohio State. accused him of knowing about claims they were inappropriately groped by an Ohio doctor. Jordan said he was never aware of any abuse. That's a weird way to end this article. But that's this. I'm bleeding out that I don't think I'm ever going back to Austin Daily Herald. So there you go. Do I think he's going to become the speaker? I think so. I think he's going to get there. I think eventually he's going to get there. It might take more than 1 or 2 more votes, but I think that these people don't have a spine. And when people don't have a spine, are put under pressure, they cave. That's what they do. They're squishy. They're squishy. Very squishy. Let me wrap up over here and get on out of here for you guys. We'll start with locals. Ann B sent me a tip of $1 saying, Joe, there's a beef version called beef fry. Yes, it's kosher. I'm also working on learning how to make my own version of beef bacon. I've tried that. I've tried similar things like that, and it's tasty. It's good. Triggered of Oz says, I found Dom in the car park today. Here, it's yours. Oh, that's so thoughtful. Thank you, Triggered. You're too kind to me, brother. And yeah, I called you brother, despite your picture. England DG saying, I used to call them bacon Jews, but there's a bad insinuation there. Gino is better. Thank you. I appreciate that. And finally, Nicole, my mother said, if Palestine puts their guns down, the war ends. If Israel puts their guns down, Israel ends. Sad indeed. And that's a good final note here. And it's true. It's true. Somehow Israel's evil. Somehow they call Israel evil. Genocidal. All right. With that, that is our show. I am going to head on out of here. I'm going to send you on over to my good friend Nick. Nick. You can all catch him over there. I already set that up. I'll be back here, God willing, tomorrow evening. I'm almost definitely doing locals tomorrow. So make sure you check out goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com. 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 Till then, take care of yourselves and Godspeed.